Welcome to the stage, Don.
I was at the main train station in Naples, Italy, waiting for my friend Frank. We were both visiting our respective families and planned to meet at a halfway point. Now, I got there early, but Frank's train was running late, and I didn't want to wander too far from our designated meeting spot, so I stood near the taxi stand as travelers crisscrossed around me. However, standing still made me stand out to a Casanova. A handsome Italian approached me, "Ciao, bella," and struck up a conversation. I explained that I was waiting for un amico, a friend, specifically a male friend. And he went on to say something like, "Well, if my friend didn't show up, I'd still have a date." So he went off to the side and hovered. Now, this happened 2 more times with 2 more Romeos, so then there were 3 of them hanging around, waiting and watching. Now, before you get all judgmental on me, I was single at the time, and this is like 15 years and 15 pounds ago. So, finally, Frank arrived. We hugged, we did the double kiss thing on the cheek, mwah, mwah, when in Rome, and we locked arms to go off and have a cup of coffee. I couldn't help but look back at my 3 wannabe suitors. They were in shock. That's because Frank was a World War II veteran. So at the time of this story, he was in his upper 80s. And I don't know if they were impressed or depressed, but either way, Frank was a perfect example of someone that was living their life to the fullest, no matter how many candles were on the birthday cake. Every day, Frank was creating his DOLCE Vita. Now, you might be wondering, what is a DOLCE Vita? And it's an Italian phrase that means the sweet life. It's a life of passion and purpose, courage and connection. And today, we're going to talk about the 5 keys to a DOLCE Vita, using it as an acrostic, DOLCE. But before we get started, I want to teach you another Italian phrase. It's actually just one word, and it's andiamo, which means let's go, come on. So I'm going to teach it to you by breaking it down into 4 syllables, and then you'll repeat after me. So you ready? On, D, mo, andiamo. Let's say it all together at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Andiamo! Well, if you insist. D is all about deciding what you want your Dolce Vita to look like. So think about 2 or 3 things that would make you say, "I love my life." Think about those dreams that you had when you were younger that you pushed aside because life got in the way. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to start a business. Anyone want to write a book? Anyone want to run a marathon? Maybe Kirk would, but that would not be me. And if you ever see me running, that means you should run too, because something scary is coming. So I decided I don't want to run a marathon. But haven't we all heard motivational speakers say, "Decide and your dreams will come true"? What does that really mean? In the Latin, decide means to cut off. So when we decide to do something, we are cutting off everything that distracts us from achieving that goal. So it all comes down to the most precious commodity of time. So if I spend an hour watching cute puppy videos, that's an hour I'm not spending writing my book. So promise yourself this. Before you log on, before you sit on the couch and hit that remote, promise yourself that you will first do something towards creating your Dolce Vita. So D, decide what you want. Now let's move on to the next key, and to introduce it, we're going to do the 1, 2, 3 andiamo. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, andiamo. O is all about being open to opportunities, and that usually means learning something new. Now I know I can hear my fellow friends over 50 say something like, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks." Well, as an official old dog here, I can tell you that yes, we can learn new tricks. It just takes us a little longer, and we might need a belly rub and a milk bone. But the other thing about being open to opportunities and learning something new is that we can get overwhelmed. Yeah. So you think about, for example, my friends that want to write books. So the thought process kind of goes like this. We think, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to have this beautiful cover, and I'm going to get an editor. And, oh, when do I get an editor? And, oh my gosh, how do I get it printed and published and marketed? And all of a sudden our brains freeze. It's like having too many browser tabs open on our computers. And where's that music coming from? So here's the good news. You do not need to know every step of the process. Nope. You only need to know your next best step. Maybe that's identifying your target market. Then you take another next best step. Come up with a title. You just keep making your next best step after another, and before you know it, you'll be holding that bestseller in your hands. And I can't wait to read it. Now let's move on to the next key. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Andiamo! L is all about living, laughing, and loving. I have a friend that travels a lot for her business. And 2 or 3 times a month, she's off on a plane to somewhere and anywhere. And she tells a time where she was traveling by herself, and she got on the plane and sat in her aisle seat, and there was already a gentleman by the window. They nodded and said hello, and everything's great. About 10 minutes later, 2 children are being brought onto the plane by an airline employee. So they were unescorted minors. And she said they were so adorable. The little girl had a pink dress and a princess crown. The little boy had a red superhero cape. They were too cute. And they sat down right in front of my friend. The flight takes off. Everything's going along fine. Until, ding, ding, please fasten your seatbelts. We're coming upon some unexpected turbulence. Well, if that wasn't the understatement of the century. Have you ever been on a flight that was so bumpy that the ice jumped out of your drink? Yeah. Yes, it was like that times 10. My friend, who remember, she travels a lot, she was so scared, she grabbed the arm of the guy sitting beside her. Didn't care, she didn't know who he was. She was terrified. The children in front of her, however, had a very different response. Every time the plane would dip and roll, they'd throw their hands up in the air like it was a roller coaster. Whee! Let's pause this story to talk about life's roller coasters. Oh yeah, you know what I mean. Brian, you shared some this morning. Anna, you shared some. You know, we're going along fine. Everyone's happy and healthy. Everything's good. And then boom, the bottom drops out. And you are on a roller coaster that is not very amusing. You wonder, how are we going to get off this? Will we get off this? So the next time that life puts you on a roller coaster, not of your own choosing, I want to give you something that will help you get through it. It's a formula. Now don't freak out if you hate math. It's a very simple formula. E plus R equals O, which stands for an event plus our response to it equals the outcome. Now let's take this formula and go back into the plane with my friend. The event was the same for my friend and the children in front of her. Now what was her response? Sheer terror. So what was the outcome? Worst flight ever, don't ever want to get on a plane, ever, ever, ever again. She did, by the way. Now what about the kids? Same event. What was their response? Whee! So what was the outcome for them? That was awesome! Can't wait to do it again! Event plus response equals outcome. Or another way to put this, we are 100% responsible for our lives. Now some of you just thought, oh, you know what? She's right. And others of you just thought, wait, what? How can you possibly say that? You don't know what I've gone through. You don't know what I'm going through. How can you say I'm 100% responsible? I would like to address that. Everyone in here, we've all faced tragedies in our lives. And I know that there are some of you that you have gone through or are going through things that I could never even imagine. I am not here to say, oh, just forget about it, or worse, just get over it. Not at all. What I am here is to encourage you to look at this situation through the lens of that formula. You cannot change the event, especially if it's in the past. But how you respond to it, that's where your power is. That's where your control is. No one can take that away from you. How you respond is where you go from being a victim to a victor. Your test becomes a testimony. Think about this. Haven't we all heard stories of people that have overcome incredible circumstances, whether they were prisoners of war, concentration camp survivors, or people with physical disabilities that scale Mount Everest? They couldn't change their event, but how they responded to it inspires us all. So can you. How you respond will be an inspiration, and you will again live, love, and yes, even laugh. And what makes living, laughing, and loving even better? Sharing it with others. So let's move on to the next key. 1, 2, 3. Andiamo! C is all about connection. Now, of course, connecting to your family and friends is the first step, and all I'm going to say is do it often, don't wait too long. Another way to connect is to your heritage. Now, this is my passion project. People who celebrate their family traditions are happier and healthier. Better still, children who know their family stories, like Jerry said earlier today, they know their family stories, they do better in school, and they have greater self-confidence. Who wouldn't want that? So I know some of you weren't raised that way, or you married into a culture that's different than your own, or maybe you did one of those DNA tests, and all of a sudden you want to buy Lederhosen or something. So it's so easy today to find out about your heritage. You just type in something like Italian family recipes or Mandalorian holiday traditions. Whatever it is, you can connect to your heritage and feel like something bigger than yourself, because you know what? You are. And another way to connect is to your community. I love the Neapolitan tradition of this called caffè sospeso, which translates literally to suspended coffee, but the figurative meaning is paying it forward, just being a kind, generous human being. So whether that's a matter of holding the door open for someone, paying for the car behind you in the drive-thru, or how about donating your time or resources to a cause that's near and dear to your heart? So connection is a huge key to a DOLCE Vita. And let's talk about that fifth and final key. Let's bring it in with the 1, 2, 3. Andiamo. E is all about enthusiasm. And you probably know the word means God within you. Think about that, a life-giving force already inside of you. We just might need to rekindle it. And how do we do that? To be enthusiastic, we act enthusiastic. So it's things like appreciating the beauty around you. It could be things like practicing gratitude. It could be something as simple as your posture. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're going to do a little experiment right now. Where you are in your chairs, I want you to either slump over or slouch down, whatever you do, just ignoring all the good posture rules your mom taught you. Okay, so how you feeling? You feeling good? You excited? Oh, yeah, you look really excited there, Ann. I love it. All right. No, of course we don't feel excited. So sit up in your chair. Shoulders are back. Your heart is open. Take a deep breath. Don't you already feel that life force rekindling? Absolutely. Now I know, I'm reading somebody's mind right now, and someone's saying, Dawn, what are you living under a rock? How can I possibly be enthusiastic with all this stuff going on in the world? I don't believe I can be enthusiastic because of all that. Or my fellow friends over 50, you might be saying something like, Dawn, it's too late. I don't believe I can make a difference in the world with what time I've got left. All right, I hear you. So you don't believe that you can be enthusiastic. You don't believe that you can make a difference with what time you have left. I get it. Do you at least hope? Of course you do, or else you wouldn't be here. And that's good, because hope is the seed of belief. And if we plant that seed of hope and water it with good information, love, persistence, before you know it, that seed of hope will sprout into full-fledged belief. And this is where it gets really exciting. Because as if each one of us becomes more enthusiastic, the ripple effect could change this world, or at least our little parts of it. I mean, think of it this way. You're like a candle being held high on a dark night. People are drawn to it. As a matter of fact, people are going to bring their unlit candle to you because they might not relate to my story, but yours will strike a chord. I also hope you don't wait too long to hold up that candle because no one is promised tomorrow. Yes, life is short, but more importantly, what are we going to do about it? I hope your answer is that you will decide to create your Dolce Vita. You will be open to opportunities, live, love, and laugh like never before, connecting with others and doing it all with enthusiasm. So if you are ready to do this with me, you're saying, yep, I am going to create my Dolce Vita. On the count of three, let's do Andiamo again. 1, 2, 3. Andiamo! Now, to get this really profound in your heart and soul, I want you to look at someone else and tell them in the eye on the count of three, Andiamo. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Andiamo! Now, if you really mean it, that you are going to start creating your Dolce Vita today, you're not even going to wait till tomorrow, I want you to get to your feet, and we're going to raise the roof. As a matter of fact, that stadium across the way, they're going to hear us, and they're going to wonder, what's this Andiamo stuff? See, you're already holding that candle high. So on the count of three, let's raise the roof, tell the stadium across the way. 1, 2, 3, Andiamo! Yes, Andiamo. Let's go change this crazy world.